Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's just about 4:35. I got work at 5 o'clock, but I insist on going there early. And thus, this will close the book on my undergraduate experience here at Kane. But I like to do things unique, and I feel like the only way that we can do this is to, quote unquote, ceremoniously film my departure. So room 141, there's a crowd. There's other people that are coming in right now, so I'm gonna have to be nonchalant about this. This is a walk through the lockers where all the instrumental majors. These are usually their lockers. These hallways with all the practice rooms. To my left and to my right are all the faculty offices. It's a very small department, very easy to walk by many times. Hilda's office with all the guide sheets and whatnot. It's, my piano teacher's office. Over there is two more practice rooms along with the two percussion studios. Hilda's office. Oh boy. You can't imagine how many times I've had to use this copier, and even more so asking Hilda for a favor. This is usually the way I would come in almost every morning. Every time I come on campus, I'd usually be coming through these double doors. And here is the computer lab where we just got updated with Macs. And now, head out this way. There's a lot of things going on in the lobby, so I don't want to really be filming. Doesn't really matter. This could be used as an entrance too. I've been through there many times. And voila, Wilkins Theater. There's two entrances. There's one here and then there's one on the other side as well. And I'm just gonna quickly film the inside because I don't want to be too suspicious with the camera. I don't know if you could see it, but recently we just put up new poster boards where now we can advertise shows, or if Wilkins Theater is having a show, or Enloe Hall, which is over in East Campus, they would put them up on these poster boards over there that you just saw briefly. Well, Wilkins Theater, it's been a wonderful 5 years. A lot of memories made, but now I exit a much more mature musician and a much more mature person that's ready to tackle on this real world. So long. So long from Kane. Well, I hope you enjoyed that small clip from May 12th. I had to be very careful about filming that one since there was about to be an event going on in the theater. Anyway, welcome to the College Grad Reflections, where I will be making a series of videos in the days leading up to the big graduation day on May 18th. In this series, I will be sharing my most memorable experience in my 5 years as a college student, from happy moments to moments where I learned a valuable lesson about life. I'm going to try and explain everything chronologically as best as I can, but for this particular video, I am going to compare and contrast my very first and last day as a college undergraduate. Actually, comparing and contrast may not necessarily be the two best words. More like I'm just gonna tell the story separately, and I'm just gonna summarize it all in the end. So anyway, my first day of college officially was September 4th, 2012. However, I did take summer classes prior to the official start of the fall semester. We'll save that portion for another video. Anyway, I remember my first day of school very vividly. It was a Tuesday, and it was a particularly gloomy Tuesday. There was rain the night before, and it led to wet roadways in the morning. The sky was gray and overcast. I decided to dress very simple for this day because somehow I wanted to dress in an outfit that I know I can remember if I decided to reflect on it for YouTube. Ironic, eh? So I dressed up in a blue cane t-shirt that I received over the summer when I registered for classes with the year 2016. Even though the program was for 5 years, I still got the shirt with the assumption that I would graduate in 4 years. I also put on a pair of jeans so that I'm all blue for the day. So back in my freshman year, I was a Bachelor of Arts in Music Education, hence why it's a 5-year program. I chose this degree because I developed a knack for teaching back in high school, and I'm very passionate about helping people out, as well as entertaining people with the piano. I have been warned, though, that the program was tough. But I had to settle for music education since that was really the only viable option there was. I didn't think that a regular music degree would get me far. So here's how my schedule looked like for the fall 2012 semester. On Tuesdays and Fridays at 8 o'clock to 9:15 a.m., I was in college composition. On Tuesdays, I also had a class called piano accompanying from 11 o'clock to 12:15, and piano repertory from 12:30 to 1:45, all on that Tuesday. My piano lesson was also on 2 o'clock on Tuesdays. Pardon me. Mondays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:45 was music foundations and chorale, which was basically a choir class. From 2 o'clock to 3:15 p.m. On Thursdays, there was also a music class that I took called Class Strings, and that ran from 4:30 to 5:45 p.m. And one final class I actually took was speech communication from 12:30 to 3:15 p.m. So I didn't think it was a horrible schedule, but I felt like if I had managed my time better, I would have tried to be involved on campus early on. Back when I was 18, I still very much was used to getting up very early. So you know what I did? When I registered for classes, one of them was English 1000 College Composition, which was a Tuesday and Friday section at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 a.m. in the morning. You know what that meant, right? The first official day of my 5-year journey in college starts on a dreary, rainy Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Even my professor was so stunned that he would have a class of 20 students that would take an 8 a.m. on the first day of school. I wasn't nervous at all since I had a familiarity with the campus from taking the summer classes. But it was interesting to have adults, young adults showing up to class on their own accord instead of being bussed and congregating around lockers like in the middle and high school. You don't know anybody for the most part, and everyone there just sat silently, like they don't want to be bothered. So the professor showed up, and the rest of the class was history. To make a long story short, I've had a long history of being socially incompetent. Making videos on GameboyTV helped ease my loneliness. In high school, it wasn't until my junior year that I started finding people that I could get along well and create long friendships. But after high school, we all had to go our separate ways, which meant that I needed to find some new friends. Once I got into Wilkins Theater later that morning to jam on a piano and meet the music majors who would become my future classmates, I picked up a not so good vibe, but part of that was probably due to nerves. I walked into a small room called the Listening Library, and there were some people there that were just chilling in there. I don't know if it was the fact that it was still early in the morning, but you can tell they weren't in a lively mood just yet. I mean, they were at least polite to me back when I introduced myself, but I didn't feel like they wanted any part of anyone until maybe in the afternoon. Also, the way they dressed, the females especially, they looked like they know their fashion very well. And that's not a problem with that. But what happened was, I was very accustomed to being in a high school where there were school uniforms, and I wasn't a guy that would go out to the mall, that often, or go out into the park. Plus, perceptions change dramatically from teenage years to adult years. So, even though the fashion might have been right in front of me all along, it was only now, it was only in 2012 that I was, starting to, pay attention, started paying full attention to it. After some time, more people started to come in, particularly the upperclassmen, and the place started getting livelier. But it was the boisterous and rambunctious type of liveliness. The type that just makes me want to curl up and teleport off to another part of the world. Since the music department was very small, people broke off into their cliques. I personally try to not get suckered into a clique because it meant that I may not get the chance to mingle with other people. But sometimes I can't help but see that metaphorical, imaginary force field around those cliques, and I wanted to join so much. It became official very quickly. This music department was very gossipy, and stories and drama travel very fast. I started to become the introvert again, while all the extroverts make their presence well known. The fact that back then I was not very open-minded and rigid meant that I got my work cut out. You see, in music, it's important to make connections and friends. They are your lifeline when you need it the most. Even though I know very well that you shouldn't rush things and you should let things happen organically and naturally, the concern wasn't that, but rather, will there be someone to accept me for who I am and be a nice companion for the years to come? At 2:00 p.m. that same day, September 4th, it was choir time. I never really got involved in choir at high school, apart from the one time when I accompanied the choir my senior year. I am also not a singer. I felt right from the get-go that I was meant to play in instrumental ensembles rather than choral. Plus all the loud, boisterous, charismatic, charming, and outgoing people were in that choir. If I had to provide an estimate, I'd say there were upwards of 70 people in the choir that fall semester. We were supposed to have choir in room 143, which is a large room, relatively speaking to how small Wilkins Theater is. It's a large classroom for classes and ensembles. But the piano there was out of tune, so we had to relocate to the room next door, which was slightly smaller. I started to feel like this tropical storm was about to brew into a massive hurricane. In a 15-minute span, my anxiety level shot up tenfold as droves of people start filing into room 141. That was the number of the room. What's worse than What's worse than being in a crowd of 70 strangers? 70 strangers sitting in a room where there's concrete walls in which the sound bounces like a pinball, like you're playing pinball. There was just so much chaos trying to get everything organized. Two people were trying to direct people into their proper vocal parts and places in the room while trying to battle through the noise of the crowd. When the choir director showed up, there was a massive round of applause, which made me feel really uncomfortable. Now, made me felt uncomfortable. So, you following me so far? We have loud, outgoing people. We got cliques that have an imaginary force field around them. We have 70 strangers cramming into a concrete walled room. And you have me in the middle of it all, feeling like a tiny ant waiting to be stepped on. Does that not constitute as hurricane status? Finally, once we got settled in, the choir director asked for several rounds of applause as he introduced the accompanist and acknowledged his student workers. I tried to go along with the crowd, but you can tell that it wasn't working well. The only thing that remedied the emotions was a guy who had a Game Boy Color on his desk. We proceeded to do a choral warm-up, and right off the gate, my choir director was already going into the technicalities of the voice, which was very foreign to me. I legitimately felt ashamed to sing, and I was faking it for the most part until the class was over. So, 3:15 p.m. came, and you would think that class would be over, right? But the choir director decided to do one more acknowledgement. There was this one guy, his name is Jonathan, who wasn't officially registered for the class, but apparently this guy can sing. He did one verse and one chorus of Amazing Grace, and it raised goosebumps from everyone. Once he finished singing, all you heard was ear-piercing cheers and applause that lasted for 30 seconds. All that cheering and clapping that are just bouncing off the concrete walls of room 141. That, folks, was the boiling point. I decided right on the spot that I couldn't handle the big choir anymore. I was also in the chorale, which is significantly smaller than the choir. And I was very emotional, when I spoke to the choir director in his office later that afternoon. He sympathized with me and allowed me to still be registered for choir, but to just show up to the chorale. I didn't want to be seen as a weakling, so I had to gather up the guts and go through the chorale for that semester. Or, rather that full year. I actually did chorale in the spring semester as well. Was it possible that maybe music education wasn't right for me? Since I was a pianist, usually those people are the ones who end up choral directing, because choral music, whether it's in a performance or rehearsal, is centered around the piano. I had to get my worries off quickly and focus on the next day. It was only day one. I shouldn't have been making conclusions already, but all I wanted to do was go home and figure out what to do for the rest of the week. I will tell you right now that the last day of my undergrad studies was significantly quieter than my first day at school for very obvious reasons. In short, I never thought that this day would come. And I never thought that I would have made the friends and the personal accomplishments that I've made over the years. It was very bittersweet to be roaming around the Kane University property one last time as an undergraduate. As you saw in the beginning of the video, I wore a blue Kane University shirt as I exited Wilkins Theater. Now, Remember the outfit that I was wearing when I was talking about the first day of freshman year in 2012? It's the very same one. Actually, no, the jeans are different, but the shirt remained the same. It's only appropriate that on the very last official day of classes, and frankly the very last day for me as an undergraduate student, I come into campus wearing the same shirt that I wore on the first day of school to pretty much complete the circle. The parking lots weren't full, but I wanted to see if I can find the people who I got to know over the years and say my goodbyes. I arrived on campus around 10 a.m. and I spent 2 hours in the Von Ames building, which houses the theater department and art department. There, I was working on my big graduation montage video for GameboyTV, while trying to see if there would be anyone from the theater department there. Why the theater department? Because, number one, I actually got along well with the theater students because they actually liked my piano playing a lot. And two, because there wasn't a lot of music students around to find. I was also thinking about how to make the most of the very last day. I wanted to make it special. So all this past week I've been taking pictures and video around campus. Once again for the big montage video. I took a pose in some of those pictures. However, that Friday I wasn't totally finished. So I spent about 2 hours at Von Ames. So like I said, I spent 2 hours there at the Von Ames, like just a little over 2 hours, and I wanted to get some more shots of around campus. So for lunch, I went over to the Cougar Den and I ordered a chef special just to make my last meal that I pay for at Kane worthwhile. The special was a turkey meatball sliders with French fries. I also ordered a cherry cheesecake with that. And I'm not one to take pictures of the food that I get, but that time I just had to do it. I just had to break the cycle just a little bit. So after lunch, I made my way to another building in the property called Downs Hall. There, I encountered a theater major who was carrying her stuff back to Von Ames from her dorm. It looked like she was carrying heavy stuff, and so my good nature stepped in and I helped her carry a bed comforter while she was carrying a basket full of towels and clothes. Up in the 4th floor of the Von Ames building, I stopped by at the theater office where I saw another theater major who I worked with in the past. We exchanged hugs and she wished me good luck and thanked me for my years of dedication to providing music for the theater majors. At 3 o'clock p.m., I decided to finally take a tour of the Liberty Hall campus. In short, the Liberty Hall features the historic property of General William Livingston, the first governor of New Jersey. It's a piece of 18th century property that is well preserved, like Mount Vernon in Virginia and Monticello. The property eventually was passed down to the Kane family, of which this college is named after. Walking through the house was like a step into the past. I imagine what it would have been like without today's fashion and technology. It's always nice to see that people are starting to appreciate the antique and value of the colonial style property again. Today it's not seen as outdated, whereas maybe 15 years ago when people were in awe and amazement about the digital age, they saw it as outdated, but not today. Many people are going back into and reviewing the past and having more appreciation for it, which is always good. The tour lasted 1 hour, and 4 o'clock p.m. came. This was it. 45 minutes before I had to go to work. 45 minutes before I officially put an end to my undergraduate experience at Kane. I wanted to spend those last 45 minutes at Wilkins Theater and reminisce about the memories that I had in this building. I don't want to sound depressing, but it felt like I was in the middle of a series finale of a TV show where the main character walks down an empty hallway and bids farewell to the place he called home. And yes, that hallway at Wilkins Theater was empty. Only one other person from the music department was there, but she had to leave to go to work. What a contrast to my first day when it was loud and chaotic. May 12, 2017 was a peaceful day, and it was a day I made worthwhile to the best of my ability. The Conservatory of Music was my home, pretty much. At some point, all good things had to come to an end. I can't remain at Kane forever. And so I made a video in room 141, the very same room where that first choir rehearsal was held on that Tuesday in September. It's the introduction video, of which I have left a link in the description. When it was time to leave, I ceremoniously filmed my final departure from Wilkins Theater. But I had to do it quick because of a dance event that was about to take place around 6 p.m. But leaving Wilkins Theater marked dotting the final I, crossing the final T, and closing the book on 5 wonderful years at Kane. I don't think I could have scripted my final day any better. Everything went the way I wanted to. The first and the last days show a stark contrast about how I was back then versus today. Now I'm ready to take on new challenges, new experiences, and hopefully I can return to school, maybe in a different college, after a period of downtime to go for a master's degree. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. My next college vlog will deal with the summer before September. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.